Yo, what's going on, guys? Rago here from Matt Kite. So this week we've got another tech video for you, and we're going to talk about kite surfing fins. Does it matter? What do they do for you? And what should you consider? So let's get to it. Alright, so I've got a couple of fins here. I've got some slingshot wake fins, which I think are like maybe 10 to 15 millimeter. And then some standard North fins that came with the Atmos, and these are the 40 millimeter fins here. So we'll start with the small fins. So what does a fin like this do for you? Well, to be honest, a fin like this is probably the most fun fin on the water. So what happens is you get a skatier feel. It's way more forgiving. So if you're somebody who's working on surface passes or handle passes, riding blind, or just having a more fun feeling board on the water, what this does is it makes it feel a lot more like snowboarding. So if you want to get kind of a skatier feel with your board, where you can really carve through the water and spin and things like that, you're gonna get that out of a fin like this. But what happens is you trade off efficiency. So tiny fins, they're harder to go upwind. You can't really jump as well because you can't quite get as good of a grip when you're loading up and edging the board. So there's definitely a big trade-off with kind of holding down and maintaining speed to create that energy for jumps and power tricks and all those things like that. So as you move up, you might see, like, for example, with this North Atmos, this is kind of a classic big air. So it's a flatter board, and it comes with bigger fins. And that's something else as well I should mention before we move on to the big fins, is if you're doing like a rockered board like this refraction, I do find that it's a lot easier to jump with and load up this edge when I'm using a little bit bigger fin. Personally, I have been running the smaller fins on this, but I do notice a huge difference in how this rockered board feels. So you can see this is kind of a flatter board, and this one kind of curves more, so that makes for a slower board. And when I have larger fins, I can get more of a grip here when I'm loading, but it does change the way this super playful board feels. So when I put really big fins on this, this board starts to feel way more locked in, and it makes a huge difference in how this board responds and feels. So you can kind of play with that variable. So when you take a board like this that has some channeling running through, it's a flatter board, pretty stiff board as well, so you can load a lot of energy and get a lot of speed with a board like this. But then when you take these big fins, what happens, you can really load a lot of energy into these fins. So with big fins, you get way easier upwind ability. You can really load against that board and create a lot of energy to get big jumps. And so the trade-off here is the board is just, it's less playful. It almost feels like you're on a track. So for perspective, if I were to take this slingshot refraction out right now, which has a good deal of rocker and concave, it curves this way, has a good deal of concave, makes for a super playful board. But this board is a lot slower. Even this 147, it's slower and maybe less efficient than like a 139 that's super flat. So this board has a really snowboard-like feel. I can really carve with it. This board's gonna feel like you're riding on a track, but that efficiency is the trade-off. So you lose some play, you lose playfulness with your board. So when you're a new rider, something in that 40 millimeter mark, that's kind of the sweet spot. It makes it easy to learn. And for your first 6 months of riding, I'd recommend just going with the stock fins that come with your board. And then you can start experimenting, figure out what works for you, maybe order up some different size custom fins and play around. And back to the question at hand, does it make a big difference? Yes, it really does. Fins make a huge difference in how your kiteboard performs. So it's not a terrible idea to experiment and try different fins and see what works for you and what you like, and then base it off your skill. Small fins, they take more skill, but they're more fun. Big fins, they take less skill. You're gonna get way bigger air, you're gonna rock upwind way easier, and they're almost essential in light wind. So kind of choose for yourself, and I'm curious to know what size fins you guys are riding. So personally, I usually ride anything from 10 millimeter to 30 millimeter. I don't usually go much bigger than that, but let me know what you're using. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments. Happy to help out. So if you guys found this video helpful, please help me out by hitting that subscribe button, giving it a thumbs up, and just sharing your thoughts with me in the comment section. So until next time, this has been Rago.